So we're back here. We're going to check in with Ron. And because there's a thing about giving a little integration time. Now, sometimes it's a breathing in, somebody naturally sighs and some integration. Sometimes when you've had somebody rehearse something, you want to give them a breakaway. You want to come back and you go, Ron, what's been going on?
It's funny, I went home and I looked at the place and I was like, well, I put the dishes in there this morning. I turned on the dishwasher, but I didn't put the dishes away.
Yeah, that was this morning.
No, that's when I went back for lunch.
Right.
But I just left it.
You just left it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You say that with a sense of pride. No, I mean, it's important to read that, the nonverbal there. There's this little smile, all right? On the one hand, he wants to, not smiling more, on the one hand, he wants us to buy into the whole idea that, oh, you know, well, it didn't work, I'm still not doing stuff. And there, look, what's this eyebrow thing here? On the other hand, we got
curiosity.
We got something else going. You know, we got a little, well, I didn't really do it. Well, this goes back to what? Sorting incongruencies. Now, we can think about that as parts. In strategies, though, we think about that as separated outcomes. There may be competing outcomes going on here. So tell us a little about this. What was going on there?
I wanted to sit down and relax.
Ah.
Yeah. Sit down, relax, you know, watch whatever's on TV, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then come back down here for the course. I didn't want to actually busy myself cleaning the house.
Mm-hmm. And this is a bad thing?
No, not really.
No, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, you know, you spent the whole morning learning a particular strategy. Your head feels a little tired. You want to relax. And that's what I did.
Okay. And you said you put the dishes.
Well, the dishes were done early this morning.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, I really didn't have anything to do. As a matter of fact, my roommate did it. I was going to do it. I put in the soap. He doesn't know how to use a dishwasher, believe it or not. And
Comes
turn
from
it
one of
on.
those countries without dishwashers, right?
Well, that's America.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I did, and that was it. I went back. I was gonna do it, and I'm like, no, just sit down, relax.
Well, wait, you were gonna do it.
Yeah.
But you're telling me it was done.
No, I didn't put the dishes away. So this morning, the dishes were put in the dishwasher. I threw in the soap, turned it on, and had the dishes all cleaned. Opened up the dishwasher, grabbed the dish I needed for whatever I was doing, cooked myself a quick meal, sat down in front of the TV, and just watched the clock, and time to go. And that was it. But the other dishes were not put away.
Right.
Yeah. That'll probably do tomorrow or tonight. Yeah.
Well, this is my point here, is that what do you hear him doing? It's like this can be proof that he's not doing it, that somehow there's something undone. Or, as I'm more suggesting, this could be proof that you are doing it. Because you also left some dirty dishes in the sink, didn't you? I mean, if you made some lunch with some dishes.
Yeah, I left one or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just one or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't much at all.
Remember what we were doing earlier today? Scoping. The idea that in Ron's case, he has where one or two, he doesn't want to be compulsive about it.
No.
Right? Piled up. If it was 6 or 7?
Yeah.
6 or 7. Yeah, what?
Time to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to wait till there's 50.
No, that's what took place over the last week. There was a whole scattering of dishes there.
Yeah, right. That was in the past. We're talking about now and into the future. Because remember, when you redo a strategy, it's not about fixing the past. There'll always be those dishes in the past. The question is his relationship not only to the dishes, but to the idea of tasks. Remember, his thing was all or nothing.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And now?
If I have, like, I'm looking at my room right now, like, tonight I have to do laundry, tonight I have to do laundry because there's too much stuff there. I was going to wait till the end of the week to do it. This way, when I brought all my clothes home, they'd pretty much be clean. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, there's too much here.
Okay.
That's got to be taken care of.
All right. So that sounds different.
It is different.
Yeah. So, as you were saying, a little progress here. Now, what I didn't do, and this is a case of a teaching point versus a practice point. Let me phrase that differently. In a teaching, we freely restrict ourselves to certain patterns so that they become obvious for teaching points. But if I was actually seeing Ron in a private practice situation, if I was seeing him as a client, of course, I'm not going to restrict myself. I might have done some other things that you've read about in Erickson or you've even heard your neighbors use and didn't realize it, which is you can use one of the strategies up there to leverage another strategy. What do I mean by that? Erickson famously talked about when his kids, and he wanted his kids to cut the lawn. And they went, oh, Dad, that's a whole lot of work. And Erickson said, well, who said it had to be work? He says, what if you crisscrossed it and made like a checkerboard? Or what if you mowed it sideways, and mowed different patterns in it, and then mowed those patterns? And the kids start thinking, and of course, what is this reminding us of?
Fun.
The Mark Twain thing about where the guy gets the kids to paint the fence because nobody else gets to paint the fence. It's an important thing to get to paint the fence. And in this way, what am I utilizing?
Criteria.
A creativity strategy to leverage a motivation strategy. In other words, the idea of him cleaning his room or cleaning his office, he probably looks at it and goes, well, I got to empty the waste baskets and I got to do this and that. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating even now for effect. I want you to understand that. Do this and that. And says, well, whereas you could start in one corner and start out from there. You could start in the upper corner up at the top, in the ceiling, and you could kind of clean down and then around. Now, my point here
never gets to that point, but
right. My point here is not to get him to think to do it that way, but twofold. One point is to get him to deconstruct his current strategy, to start thinking there are other ways. You could clean the desk from the middle out, from the edges in.
usually I would just take everything off the desk, put some, I forgot the name of it, but, just to give it a nice shine.
And then wax on.
Wax off.
Now, that was utilizing what? I'm taking a memory, I'm accessing a memory, and I'm sticking that memory in the middle of this other experience, creating a new anchor for it. So you begin to realize that you can play with these in different ways. I'm getting him to encourage him. Now, the other thing Erickson was doing was, no matter what way he encouraged his sons to cut the lawn, what was the presupposition? You're going to cut the lawn. Mm-hmm. Right. So I started talking to Ron. I says, well, let's figure out some better ways to clean. Meaning let's more fun ways to clean. Better didn't work. You saw that? He went, well, more fun ways to do it.
I'm trying to think of a fun way, and it just doesn't dawn on me.
It doesn't dawn on you.
No. It's never been fun.
You could take everything and push it in a corner.
Done that.
Done that? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you could lift things up, one at a time, clean underneath them.
Well, I've never done that really.
You could think about, have you ever, in my place, I don't understand this, maybe you can explain this to me, is that my place is empty, for a month at a time.
Huh.
And then I go back, and I've cleaned it just before I left, and there are dust bunnies in the hall. Where do they come from?
Ventilation.
The windows are closed while I'm gone.
There's got to be some way that they...
I know. So I talk to them.
And what is it you have to say?
What are you doing here? How did you get in? You never did that?
Never, no.
Wouldn't even think of it?
No, dust bunnies are just not an issue for me.
I see.
Yeah, that's something...
You whisk them away.
I hate to say it, we have a maid that comes in once every 2 weeks.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Now, did we even think of this? Right? Why are we even bothering teaching? This is like teaching somebody the spelling strategy. We were doing this a few years back, and the guy goes, I have a spell checker. I don't need a spelling strategy.
No, but that's just for certain areas in our house. I have to do my own desk. Mm-hmm. I got to do my own room. Everything else is done by her. Once every 2 weeks.
Once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way it was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I have a different kind of question.
Sure.
Because I understand that being in this training and doing other things, you're involved in revising, rewriting, perhaps, recreating your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the goal is to be more proficient at certain things. That's what I want to do, is become proficient.
Why would you want to become proficient when you could do something worthwhile?
What's the difference?
My point is, you could become more proficient.
Yeah.
You could also take these moments to amplify your learning strategy, your creativity strategy. I mean, instead of this being a case of, see, proficiency is a good thing, but if you think about it, it's a tune-up. It's like you're
Okay.
fine-tuning.
Yeah.
Does that make sense or not? Is that?
Well, proficient means that I get good at it. That's
All
how
right.
I see it.
Okay.
Is that I become good at a particular skill.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking for.
All right. So I'm suggesting in order to become more proficient, what you could be doing is wondering what you could be learning in these different situations.
I think that's a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, learning is very important for me.
Mm-hmm.
The more I know, the more I do.
Right. So, oh, okay. The more you know, the more you do.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious how you're going to get curious about your desires, not desires to clean.
How I'm going to become curious about it.
Yeah, like the next time you look at your desk and you can feel that little poke, you know, and you could just ignore it and go in the other room.
Or I
Or-
could do something different for a change.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's probably what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is to say, you know what, instead of doing what I automatically do, which is basically, I'm not doing this.
Right.
You know? Yeah, it's just to say, hey, let's see
And
what
it's more
happens
like,
if you do.
what could I learn, not by the cleaning, but by the doing something different at that moment? Because the more you learn, the more you can do.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's what I said. That's what I'm curious about is when
Okay.
you get those pokes, it's sort of like, okay, now I can go on automatic. Now I can go and sit down and watch TV. Right.
Yeah.
Or at that moment you can go, what else could I do that I would learn more about myself, learn more about other people, learn about the way I work and the world works and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
that it would really allow me to get proficient at this stuff and what's important to me in life.
Well, I'd be a finisher, I think. That's really
Well,
important.
then we can find that out later. I'm
Yeah.
more curious about that very first step, about if you do something different, you're going to learn more. If you learn more, you're going to do more.
The first step?
When you get that poke, you know, when the life shows you this moment, and you know in that moment it like freezes, and you could go either way. That
I think what I could learn from that is probably having a choice to say, you know what, I don't care if I get, you know, I don't care if, at that point in time it would be, well, I don't care if I normally go off and watch TV, or if it would be better to do that. Let's just see what happens if I
yeah,
finish
exactly.
it. Yeah,
It's being experimental.
yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to just doing what I normally do, which is, you know, I'm bored, I may as well, you know, this here, I don't like it, TV, boom.
And I'm
That's
sure
usually
that you'll
the-
find yourself from time to time with that, and you'll go, oh, and even that could be a moment when you could go, yeah, I can do this.
Or
yeah,
I could actually clean up.
do anything, do something different. You could clean up.
Bike
Go
ride,
be creative. You could, yeah,
yeah.
that
Go to the
moment.
gym.
Yeah. And if you begin to multiply those moments, I wonder what sort of proficiency begins to appear.
What happens at that point in time is dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? A sense of having options,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just doing the first thing that comes to mind. Because at that point in time, I feel like a robot. You know what I mean? I don't like this. Well, do something else quick.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I don't like. So I guess what I would learn from that would be a sense of having more than just one choice.
Mm-hmm.
That would be important.
Activity,
Yeah,
room to
very,
move,
very much so.
comfort.
Yeah, comfort to some
Well, the
degree.
comfort of knowing that you're creating a world where you're proficient, where you're more choiceful.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Well, don't imagine it fully. Just enough so the hand goes around that clicker.
Okay.
You realize that you can get sucked into that robotic, or you can put it down.
Yeah, that's what I would prefer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be, I think, a lot better.
Mm-hmm. And here we go with another strategy. And how many times are you going to need to rehearse that now in order to know it's going to be that way when the time comes?
Let's see here.
Convincer strategy, right? So I've done things, I've done a bit of rehearsal, I found a leverage point. So now I want to use a convincer strategy that he's convinced that this is a better choice, so that then he will act on this as a generalization that he has.
I think if I had about, and I can pull examples from my past too, where I take a look at it. I think, because I have been doing that before.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
But see, the difference between having done it before, decide to do it, and being convinced is with a conviction, then he reaches for the clicker or he goes in old habits and he goes, no, I'm convinced this is not going where I want my life to go. I'm convinced if I do something different, I'm going to have more proficient, more interesting, more engaging. I'm going to be more the Ron I want to be.
That did it. Yeah. Because usually it's an end result. Okay, well, you know what? You're at your desk anyways. There's a game that I like playing on my computer. Play that. And it fulfills my need for that time.
Yeah.
And then when it's over, let's say, for example, I could have done a lot of things before going to work, but instead I'm going to play a video game. And at that point in time, I go, I'm at work now, and I'm like, I'd really like to be at home planning for my future. And I had plenty of time to do that before I actually went to work. So now I'm sitting at work going, trying to plan for my future, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually getting to do that at home as opposed to doing it at work. Well, you know what's funny?
What?
I sort of get a sense of doing that at home and then also going to work and finishing it up.
Because we create these art. I mean, is this uncommon? This is somebody who that when they're at work, they're thinking about playing tennis. And then when we go tennis, they're worrying about that contract at work kind of thing. I mean, this is about scheduling, about getting our mind in one place or the other. Now, what you point out so elegantly is that we tend to gum up the works because of certain habits. That is, we know near-term ways to please ourselves. And I'm not against these, by the way. I just want to point out that when you've, now what have I done here? When you've expanded the time frame, when I've gotten him to take in a larger time frame, a larger scope of time, then he begins to rethink this. See, I'm not against Ron playing video games. He still may play a video game. But it will be at the time and at the choosing where Ron goes, well, this would relax me. This is going to be what I really want to do, as opposed to, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Do what I do when I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's introducing a choice point into the discomfort. Swish pattern would work as well here. And in that moment, then, have him become convinced that this propagated through his future, which is what I've been doing verbally, is going to take him more and more in the direction of the kind of life that he wants.
And I think the more I look at the future and sort of get a taste of it, that makes a difference as well. Because if I look at the future and I don't taste it, well, who cares? Do you know what I mean? Whereas if I know that I'm partaking in an activity right now, I know that's something that's happening, and I know I can feel it. If there's any doubt about something, it becomes difficult. If I have evidence that supports what I'm doing is working, then I know that I'm going to accomplish an ends. That's very important, is that I do get what I want.
He said a couple other things are very important just now, that he uses highly detailed evidence, otherwise things become difficult, and about the tasting of the future. So very much associated kind of experience about that future.
Yeah, very much so. And that's something that I have to consider, because I know that I've made plans to do stuff before and I'm like, it's unlikely that it's going to take place. As soon as something becomes unlikely, at that point in time I give up on it. I want it, but you know what? It doesn't look like I'm going to get it.
Right. This goes to reality strategies. The idea that if something is unlikely to take place, he's got it in the unreal category, as opposed to the real category. Now, we can play this in a very simple submodality way. Show me where unlikely is and show me where real is. You already did, actually, but
did I?
For our studio audience, please,
I don't
show
remember.
us again.
I don't know.
Okay, so if something's unlikely to happen, what?
It's not going to happen.
What about?
Is it there?
I don't know. Try it out. Unlikely. Not that far over.
I don't know.
Think about something that's unlikely to happen.
It's unlikely I'm going to go to the moon.
I'd say it's, well, not impossible, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's going to happen.
All right, all right. And what's something that you're pretty certain is going to happen?
Pretty certain it's going to happen. I'm going to have a shower later on tonight.
Okay, let's pick something a little further out. Say you'll complete the week of this training and go to the airport.
Yeah, that's going to happen. Yeah.
So
I don't know if I'm going to make it home, though.
I didn't pick that one. I didn't pick that one.
Yeah.
So take a moment and
Okay.
find out where those two images are. The going
There's
to
a
the
story
moon,
behind it.
the going to the moon, and the going to the airport.
Going to the moon. I just get a picture of the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not on it.
Okay.
And going to the airport, well, I see myself at the airport. There I am at the airport.
Okay, so we already get, there's one difference in terms of submodalities. Now, take a moment, look at one, look at the other, take the time you need, come back, report any other differences in terms of the submodalities.
Okay. I'm going to be at the airport because, well, I have to be there.
Yes, that's language. What do you see in the image? What do you see, what do you hear in that experience?
I see myself there.
Yeah.
I see myself there. I see myself going through the procedures and stuff like that.
So we now know it's a movie. So we saw the
Yeah.
movement in his body, yeah.
I see, I know that I've been to the airport before, and I get an idea of the things that have to be done in order for me to, board the flight and stuff like that.
So let me lead the witness a little here. As you look at these two pictures, are they both in color or black and white? Are they both three-dimensional or not?
The moon's just a picture of the moon, and the other one is sort of a color movie. It's kind of vague, but I mean, I get a sense of me talking to the, to the person that takes your ticket. I see myself, checking my luggage in. I get a sense of, filling out stuff that I have to fill out to make it through the border, stuff like that.
Okay, so there's details, movement. All right. So now going to the idea of this future you that you want to be, this guy who can accomplish stuff. And what is your image of that? This one that you want to taste, that sometimes you can taste, this future.
Well, I get a sense of a person who's enabled. Do you know what I mean? He has a relatively good plan that he's put together. He's pretty sure that he's going to get what he wants, but more on the sure side than on the unsure side. He partakes in activities on a daily basis that produce the results that he's trying to produce, stuff like that.
Okay, now where is this image or movie that you're looking at?
Where do I see it? Let's see.
We already have some ideas, don't we? Just
Yeah.
by where his eyes go. What about?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your image.
Well, yeah, right there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And he also calls it him, that guy, right? He doesn't call it him. There's this, so there's a dissociation verbally as well.
Okay.
So allow me to invite you.
Okay. Invite away.
Whenever all of each of both of you is ready, to allow that image to begin to move more into the location of the going to the airport image. That you can see that guy you were talking about is you. That bits and more detail fill in as that gets more colorful and becomes more complete and more detailed.
Okay.
And continue to breathe. Okay, it's not optional in this process.
No. Okay. First of all, I have to have a goal. There's a goal missing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. This is
Yeah.
a very good discovery to make at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a goal missing, plain and simple. There's got to be a goal, an outcome. I mean, it's easy to go to the airport.
Now, here's the deal. You go to the airport.
To achieve I got to get home.
Right.
There's a step that's required.
Yes.
Go on. Sorry there.
No, the airport, it's like a journey of 1,000 steps.
Yeah.
or 1,000 miles. It's that you go to the airport to make part of that journey. That to go to the airport, you have to have your language skills, and we've discussed you may need some negotiation skills, that you're going to be using your acuity. In other words, all these skills will come to bear on this moment called going to the airport, even though that's only one step on a larger journey you're taking, which is to your home and back to your life and your work and the fullness of your experience. So in that same way, this expression of you that you say is goalless could, in a sense, be a milestone along the way to those larger goals, to those more. Because what's good about what I'm hearing is he's not looking for an end goal. He's not going, I'm in front of 1,000 people and they're cheering and whatever. It's more like he's talking about a quality. He says, a competence I want to have. I want to have an ability with this.
That's right, yeah.
Exactly. So I like that continuous verb quality about it. On the other hand, for the purposes of allowing his mind to think of it, you could pick out a milestone along the way that would let you know that you were on that track.
But once again, like I said, it has to have I guess an end result. There has to be something that's attained there. If there's nothing attained there, then there's no point in having that particular skill.
That's okay.
Plain and simple.
So what is it that you would like to have there now?
Money, that would be one. Independent,
Okay.
yeah, independence, like financial independence. That's definitely a big goal of mine. Doing something.
I saw more congruence on financial independence than I did on money. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see here. A sense of purpose. I think that has to be there as well. If there's no purpose, then there's
Clearly,
no point. Yeah.
And there's that eyebrow again. So.
Yeah.
Well, you got to get all these guys involved.
Yeah.
You're a big guy. You keep a lot of people in there.
Got to organize them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Let me in, please. That sense of, it has to have some kind of purpose. If there's no purpose, there's no motivation. That's all there is to it. If there is no end goal, then what's the point of doing it?
Really?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
There's no joy in the moment.
There is joy in the moment, but I mean, at the same token, like if you think about it, there are people who live a very hedonistic, what's the word I'm looking for, or a phrase? They live a very hedonistic, very short-term kind of life. And I feel that when I get trapped in that, even if I feel a sense of reward, at some point in time, I'm like, well, what's the point? So there, yeah, exactly, there goes the remote. So there has to be purpose. If there's no purpose, then that's what I fall into, is that trap.
Oh.
To give you an example, when I started working for that real estate company last year, there was a purpose. Do you know what I mean? And that's what kept me motivated and kept me going. Whereas if I know everything I need to know about the bar industry, I really don't like it anymore. The only thing that keeps me coming back is the fact that I make good money at it. So really there's financial reward, but there's no real I'm helping anyone reward.
So what did we hear? We heard criteria. Yeah, we also heard that he said making money, financial independence is important, but then what do we hear? It's not enough. That's right. There's sufficient, and it's not a sufficient condition. It's necessary, but it's not a sufficient condition. And we also, in the very last phrase, heard people. Yeah, this meta program about people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess people have to be there as well. I mean, there are people there that I'm serving at my bar. I'm giving them what they want, but they're not giving me what I want. Do you know what I mean? And that is them having a sense of, like what I'm creating, and I realized this at like when I had my own place, is I had a kid who was coming in, and he was giving us his paychecks because we'd let him literally, not pay right there and then. So we'd run him a tab, and he'd come in with a $500 paycheck and say, here you go. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Kind of feeling. So I've got to be able to give someone more than just, a good time for a night. That people have to have, some sense of reward. I've got to be able to give something like a house, They're going to buy a house. That to me, I think, is important. They're going to live there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So stuff like that. It's got to have some kind of higher value to it, and it's got to be something that doesn't destroy them, which alcohol does.
I'm definitely signed on for that.
Okay.
So the question is, how can we have you sign on for that? Because you say you lose your purpose from time to time.
I guess it's got to feel like I can actually accomplish that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get a sense that I can help people, but you know, to what caliber can I actually do it?
Mm-hmm.
I know I can get them into a bar. I'm very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I don't have any real proof or evidence that I can actually help someone, you know, become better.
This is about learning strategies and recontextualization. I was discussing with a few of you earlier how people will, in a part of their life, and particularly in our society, that women will be a homemaker and will develop all these things like multitasking and dealing with difficult people, usually about that tall, and all these different skills. And yet, because the skills are held in the frame of homemaking, when the person goes to seek a job, and particularly the way a lot of people that run the job business think about it, they go, well, you were just a homemaker. It's like, look, if you can get 5-year-olds to do what you want, you can get executives to do what you want. If you can get strangers to go into a bar, a smelly place, and spend their hard-earned money to the point where they're bringing in their paycheck,
I was good at it, yeah.
you can get people to buy houses that actually will enhance their life.
Well,
But
I
somehow-
did that too,
Right.
which
Somehow
surprised
people
me.
get these. So here's an example of where you're actually thinking strategically about recontextualizing a skill from one area to another. Which, talking about it in front of him, doing that in the way that I did, is encouraging him to notice that.
Yeah. I guess it's a sense of when I'm behind the bar and I'm doing what I have to do, people take me very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
They know that I can do it because they see me doing it all the time. And that it reinforces my belief.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they can't just step behind the bar and do it.
Right.
Because, you know, like I thought to myself, when I first started learning bartending, I thought it was going to be easy, but it's not really that easy.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do so many different things at once, it's unbelievable. And
So there's a sense, so I like this because he has a sense of the reference experiences necessary to create a competence.
Yeah.
Yeah. You saw something that looked easy when you went and got in there. You went, it wasn't easy,
No, not at all.
but you learned to do it.
I learned to do it. I mean, I had a passion for it too at the time, and I did it very well. Unfortunately, I don't do it as well as I used to because I don't like it anymore.
This goes back to developmental. I mean, you probably had passions when you were 5 years old.
Yeah.
You certainly had passions when you were 15. Mm-hmm. Some of those still may be with you.
I'm glad.
Yeah. But others have changed.
Yeah.
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 It's part of growing up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So you've outgrown this particular passion, but your ability to be passionate was there when you were 5 and 15 and 25.
Yeah.
I bet even 35.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you want to address that passion in some other area of your life.
Yes, I do.
And you already know from your previous experience that you can see something and know it kind of looks easy. You want to do it. You know it can be difficult. And you also know you can learn to do it.
Well, there's been very few things that I've tried to accomplish in my life, or at least tackle in my life, that I didn't eventually learn how to do.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stand reading, but I knew it was important. So I started picking up books and I forced myself how to read better. And I got to a point where I was reading like a book every 2 weeks, you know, just going through a book. And I couldn't stand, it's funny, I had a passion to learn more about NLP, but my understanding of grammar was very poor, so I bought a bunch of books on grammar, which I couldn't stand doing. I forced myself through it, and therefore I learned the meta model better. It was a requirement for me to understand it. So yeah, that's
I
important.
want you to pause and notice what a formidable ability that is. You look out here, there's a number of people that couldn't get themselves to, I mean, grammar, you didn't like reading, and you went and got books on grammar,
Yeah,
and you study them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, thoroughly. Yeah, it was important for me to know.
That's
you know,
right.
like if I didn't have the understanding of grammar, it was going to be very hard for me to understand what transformational grammar was. So therefore, I forced it was like putting myself through a meat grinder. I didn't think that was the best way to do it, but I knew that it was
I
important
don't think it's
for
the
me.
best way either, but I
No.
want to take a moment and have you acknowledge this formidable force in you that when something's important to you,
I do it.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have to do it. If I want to get this, then you know what? If I got to go through the bad stuff, then I'll go through the bad stuff.
mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it's been with a lot of things that, you know, because I didn't think that it was impossible for me to learn the meta model. I knew that I could figure it out.
So let's take a moment here. You've got reading, and you've got the meta model, and grammar,
Yeah.
and
Well, yeah, I guess bartending. Yeah.
And how many examples where you something you didn't know was difficult and you went ahead and you
I got lots of them in my life.
I want you to start going through those examples right now, one after another.
Okay. So bartending, I'm a lot better at that. Managing even. Let's see here. Believe it or not, organizing stuff, although
Sure.
I can't stand it. Like I put together, because I know the importance of it, I put together a domestic beer count to determine what's missing and what's not. And I've got it all figured out for shift change and stuff like that.
Okay.
I've put together, I put together a really complex one as well, which was for my first bar, and then I simplified it, made it a lot easier. You know, I understand, say for example, concepts. I know how to get people to come into a place. You know what I mean? Like when I owned that bar, boy oh boy, I had so many people coming into my bar, it was unreal. Like I would put on a show. That was me in front of a bunch of people, you know, who wants a drink and stuff like that. Like just making sure that these people got a good time. I knew how important it was to make those people feel like they were at home. So I would try to give them as a sincere experience as possible.
So here's my point: is how many more examples of your creating this bar people want to go to, of creating this beer list, of studying the grammar, of learning the bartending and the hard part of that job, of learning to read? How many more examples are you going to need to think of to realize what an indomitable force you are? How you wanting to go for something that's important to you, that
None.
it's going to happen?
As soon as it's important, none, because I know that I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that's the most important thing, I guess, is, you know, that how important is this to me? As soon as it becomes extremely important and it becomes realistic, I think I can pretty well capture anything.
All right. So I'm not letting you off the seat until I hear one more thing,
Sure.
which is, what is that important thing now?
Desire.
I understand it's desire, but you said you need to be able to see something. It's got to be, you got to be able to achieve it. You told me that yourself. So I know that desire is going to be part of it. But what is? Just like you had something at 5, just like you had something at 15, at 25, maybe several things. I want you to let me know what one of those concrete, realistic, tasted kind of goals that's important to you is now.
What is important to me right now? And it's, and that's just it. I come up with another abstract: financial independence. That's important to me. That's a goal that I really want to have.
All right.
Freedom. Do you know what I mean? Freedom to do as I see fit.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
Freedom to do as you see fit that makes a positive difference for other people. There's something in that I want to phrase. Maybe I didn't phrase it right, but there's something in there about people as well. Because you go back to the bar, you make a lot of money selling people drinks. But
I certainly do.
That's right, but that isn't enough anymore.
Yeah, you're right. It isn't.
Yeah.
I guess freedom to to help others. I want to have some kind of impact in the lives of other people.
All right.
That is something that's important as well.
So I want you to take that and start to flesh that out for us. What is this guy doing? What are you doing when you're doing that?
He's showing people another way.
Mm-hmm.
He's showing people that there's more to them than that they could possibly imagine.
And how is he showing them that?
Living through example. That's one way. Pointing out areas in their own life where they may have missed what was going on.
Okay.
Using what I've learned here. Those things. Yeah. And what else? working with them until the result actually happens, walking the talk.
Okay.
I think that's essential.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, heck, you can run anyone through something and then just leaving them hanging there or pretending that it worked doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be where I actually go through it with them.
Okay.
Yeah, even if it takes more than, let's say, for example, a week.
Right.
Dedication.
Dedication. And how do you see that?
Passion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I see him having a sense of passion, therefore he will be dedicated.
One little change. I see myself having a sense of passion.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Well,
Oh, okay, I see myself having a sense of
you
passion.
be where you work. Yeah.
Okay, I'm like, what are you seeing?
I'm hearing that dissociation.
Yeah.
That goes from he to when it's in this
Thank you very
place.
much. Yeah, that's it. Because like I said before, if I knew I could taste it, if I knew I could feel it coming, then it made it easy. If I see it too far out, then I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, you know, there's two ways to bring things closer.
Go to it and...
One is to bring it closer, and the other is to take that zoom lens
and zoom it in.
and zoom it in.
Yeah. Yeah, so... and it's also having an opening.
Sure.
There is no
and then
plexiglass
you can
there.
Zoom it, yeah.
Yeah, there is no barrier.
Okay.
I think that's essential as well, because if there's a barrier there, then I become detached to it.
Well, no barrier there.
Okay, no barrier there. And what else? Him looking at me.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's important too.
Now?
Yeah. And me stepping into it and feeling it happen right now.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a difference too. Because before, like when I think of something that I'm motivated to do, I'm almost there. I get that sense of stepping into it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I think of it as disassociated and far away, then it's not going to happen. So I have to feel like I'm there right now.
Okay.
Okay. So there right now. And a feeling that it's okay to do this. That's important as well.
Mm-hmm. And how are you going to develop that feeling fully?
Saying that it's okay to stick your hands into other people's business. I think that's important as well. Because for a part of my life, it was like, well, you should let them just do what they have to do on their own.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that in order to make a difference in life, you've got to make interruptions. So that's important as well. Being okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's where I might have a bit of a problem.
Yep.
Is actually believing that that's okay.
What if you ask permission?
From the individual?
Sure. People tend to like to be asked before you stick your hands in their pockets.
That works a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Works better for me too.
Okay, getting that sense makes it easy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming up here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Now, a lot of this is going to look familiar from the practitioner. The idea of getting a well-formed outcome, this was something, there was something missing in that. And the idea of the submodalities, and the idea of having a way to get there and dealing with objections. The difference I'm hoping that you're getting is this time around is that instead of applying it as a technique, it was applying it to the distinctions that he was making and following him. That is that we started out simply enough with the idea that he had difficulty with motivating around his house. We found something about the way he thought about that, all or nothing. Now, go to meta programs. Do you think an all or nothing strategy about life goals would create difficulties for you? Sure it would. On the other hand, and this is something to really pay attention to, people's experience is often different than the way they sort it. That is, he perceives himself as an all or nothing kind of guy, and there's a sense in which that's true. But on the other hand, he taught himself grammar, he taught himself reading, he did these small chunk things, and he went after it, all or nothing. He went after it and did it. But what he wasn't doing before was realizing how that added up to all of these profound skills, because he tended to look at himself as either having it or not having it. And that's where the idea of a meta program perception on a strategy has a tremendous effect. So knowing that, you can begin to revise how the person is utilizing the meta programs, begin to offer them reference experiences in contrast to that. What we first did was to get him to scope in and out and adjust instead of going zoom, zoom, was to find a middle ground. And then as we began to utilize the different strategies to leverage each other, in other words, how could he use creativity to begin to put together what he was doing, we found that, in fact, a lot of it had to do with the unreality of his goals. So utilizing some principles of reality, some principles, some modalities, making sure that it was not only big and bright like it was supposed to be, but that it was where it was supposed to be, that it had the characteristics of a reality strategy, which we discovered were, in his case, almost associated, right? Panoramic, movement, color, right? And again, you go, oh yeah, that's what we do, and we have people set a goal. So yes, there are leanings. That works for a lot of people, and in this case, it worked for Ron. The difference is instead of assuming what it might be, we were actually finding out and stepping with each element and with each thing we found out to progressively put together the change that Ron needed that would fit best for him. If it helps as a metaphor, it's like custom tailoring as opposed to off the rack. Of course, we know you'd like the custom tailoring better. That's right. Yeah. So let's take a break, and we'll come back. I'll take questions, and we'll go on to our next item.